It's me, the little voice in your stomach. And as you can tell by my musical selection, I have impeccable taste. So I won't settle for anything but the most tasty snack. All natural Alberto beef jerky. It's lean beef, slow cooked, and seasoned to perfection. All natural and all delicious. So listen to the little voice in your stomach. Indulge my great taste and feed me some all natural Alberto beef jerky. Alberto beef jerky. You get out what you put in.
Refers to Alberto's all natural line of beef jerkies. Minimally processed, no artificial ingredients.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Planning on having Mikey Garcia. Remember, he just beat up on Adrian Broner a few weeks ago. We're going to talk about that fight. Going to talk about the upcoming fight between Mayweather and McGregor. We have to have a very, very serious discussion, ladies and gentlemen, about steroids in professional sports in light of the news that was revealed last night that John Bones Jones, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest UFC fighter I've ever seen, greatest MMA fighter I've ever seen, John Bones Jones, testing positive for steroids. His career might be over. We pray that it's not going to be. But I'm also going to get a little bit into what transpired and why so many of you should be so very, very, very upset at the stories percolating about what transpired. It's important. We'll discuss that and more as the show progresses today right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. First order of business, however, to get into is the mega trade, the blockbuster trade that transpired yesterday evening. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the Eastern Conference champions, traded away Kyrie Irving to the Boston Celtics, honoring his request to be traded. Kyrie Irving has been traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Boston Celtics, the same team that the Cleveland Cavaliers faced in the Eastern Conference Finals this past May. In return for his services, Isaiah Thomas, number 3 candidate for league MVP honors this year, who averaged nearly 29 points per game. Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, some 7-foot European player none of us ever heard of, Zizic, I believe his name is, and the unprotected first-round pick belonging to the Brooklyn Nets that Boston had in its coffers from trading away Paul Pierce and Kevin Durant and Kevin Garnett. So you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what you acquired. Now, people are asking the question, first of all, who got the better end of this deal? Let me say this first. No one lost. You're the Boston Celtics. You got a star in Kyrie Irving. Nastiest handle in the game of basketball. Brother can flat out ball, average 25 a game, closes. LeBron wasn't the closer for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was Kyrie Irving. So we got that out the way. And then if you're Cleveland, you still got the better of this deal. Number one, you got a scoring machine in Isaiah Thomas, who may not have the same numbers, but definitely is going to benefit and will benefit the Cleveland Cavaliers because of his pairing with the great LeBron James. You got Crowder, who is no scrub, who can put in 15 a game, who can hit perimeter shots, plus he's big, strong, he's a rough rider, and doesn't mind defending. Not quite Draymond Green, but it's pretty damn close. So you got that going on. And you got that pick. But that's not how I'm looking at it, and that's not why I believe that Cleveland got the better end of this deal. The reason why I think the Cleveland Cavaliers got the better end of this deal, because this deal combined with the other moves they made in offseason, where they acquired Derrick Rose in free agency, and they acquired Jeff Green in free agency. Couple that with Crowder and Isaiah Thomas's arrival, the loss of Kyrie Irving, a star and a starter, was replaced by 3, potentially 4 starters in the league. So as a result, you're Cleveland. You have more size. You have more defensive prowess. You have just as much scoring, and you have more depth. That's why I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses about LeBron and Cleveland and all. No. You have enough to compete with the Golden State Warriors for the title. I'm not saying that you're the favorites. Golden State is still favorites. I'm not saying you're better because Golden State is still better. But you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're better today than you were yesterday, assuming Isaiah Thomas's hip heals properly and he's healthy. If that is the case, entering the last year of his deal, approaching free agency, looking for a $177 million deal from the team he stays with, or $133 million or $131 million from the team he goes to. Isaiah Thomas is looking to get paid. He needs to stay healthy and have a big-time year. Assuming he's healthy, I don't want to hear any excuses. No excuses. This is what it's about. The Golden State Warriors are better. The Golden State Warriors are the reigning defending champions. But the Golden State Warriors don't have the best player in the world in the eyes of a lot of people. Kevin Durant's number 2 on that list, not number 1. Now, I think this is hellified close. Because Kevin Durant is a superstar extraordinaire. But if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, yes, it's a loss to lose Kyrie Irving. But Isaiah Thomas is no scrub. As a matter of fact, he's pretty damn elite. You still have LeBron. And then you added the Derrick Roses of the world, the Jeff Greens of the world, the Jay Crowders of the world. What's the problem? What's the problem? And we hear excuses. I saw LeBron James beat the Boston Celtics in the NBA in the Eastern Conference Finals last year and get asked immediately, what about the Golden State Warriors? Man, I don't even want to think about that right now. I don't even want to stress myself out. I just want to enjoy this moment and get ready, and try to prepare myself to go at them because it's very, very stressful. They're loaded, and I just don't want to stress myself like that. I mean, does that sound like a person confident in winning to you? He walked in the finals knowing he was going to lose. Not now. Not with a deal like this. Not with adding this much depth. Still maintaining your scoring ability and prowess. Aiming at the champions. No. No excuses. Boston is good. Boston is better. Still ain't good enough to beat Cleveland. But in light of what I just said to you, pressure's on LeBron more so than Kyrie. Ain't nobody ever said Kyrie was better than LeBron. Ain't nobody going to be surprised when Kyrie loses to LeBron. That's a given. He didn't want to be number 1 because he thought he was better than LeBron. He wanted to be number 1 because he was tired of being LeBron's teammate. There's a difference.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let me tell you something else about this trade. What's sickening to no end about it. I'm just going to put it out there. From a New York state of mind, if you're Carmelo Anthony, how are you feeling right now? Can't get you to Houston because Ryan Anderson ain't enough. You didn't want to go to Cleveland. So you're going to get paid as usual, but are you legitimately going to be in position to compete for a championship? Hell no. It's not going to happen. And if Carmelo Anthony can't go to Houston, then he's saddled with a New York Knicks team clearly rebuilding and ill-equipped to compete for anything close to a championship. You're lucky if you make the playoffs. So we got that problem. On the LA side, things get very, very interesting. Because one could make the argument that this incentivizes, this move, particularly if it works, incentivizes LeBron James to stay in Cleveland as opposed to leave after this upcoming season. And if he stays, all this noise about how LeBron could end up a Laker, that's going to fall to the wayside. There's a $217 million Supermax extension on the table for Russell Westbrook for months, who's, by the way, chilling in L.A. these days. He hasn't signed that extension with Oklahoma City Thunder. He's expected to sign it before the season begins, but if he does not, where does that leave him? That means he'll be a free agent, and, you know, he and Paul George could come to L.A. But what if he does sign it? Like I'm told he will. If he signs it, then he stays in Oklahoma City. And if you're Paul George and you're legitimately competing for a championship, and while you might not be better than Golden State, you are better than San Antonio. You are better than Houston. I'm not saying that. I'm saying hypothetically speaking. If you're better than those teams and you're butting heads with Golden State for Western Conference supremacy, who's to say that Paul George would leave Oklahoma City to come to the Lakers like he had his agent tell the Indiana Pacers he would do? Or better yet, ladies and gentlemen, what if these tampering charges, which I consider bogus and petty on the part of the Indiana Pacers, by the way, what if it carries water? What if it's significant enough for the NBA to say, Paul George, you can't go to the Lakers, just like they did with Chris Paul years ago? Yes, the City of Angels will be apoplectic. Yes, it would be Armageddon up in this, you know what? But in the end, it wouldn't happen, which means that Paul George would have to think about going someplace else other than to the Lakers. And why wouldn't he stay in Oklahoma City, especially since they're willing to keep him and pay him? These moves have collateral damage, and it could all end up drastically and detrimentally infecting the Lakers and Knicks franchise for years to come. You can love Lonzo Ball all you want to, but remember, he's a rookie. There's only but so far you can go. Only but so far. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to Rock. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A?
Talk to me, man.
Yeah, man, I want to first, I want to ask you, have you figured out about that Aaron Rodgers situation that he's out the game October the 28th yet?
Sir, I don't understand you. I'm having a difficult time understanding you because you sound muffled.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Is it better?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out that James Jones, man, God, he's done, man. And for him to just came off suspension for using drugs, and then knowing that you're going to get tested right after you fight, it makes no sense. So I'm gonna
stop you on that because I'm getting ready to get into that in just a second. But I know you called to say something about the Kyrie trade. I'll get into John Bones Jones in a few minutes. But what did you have to say about Kyrie?
Man, that was a wonderful deal for Cleveland to get and for Boston to get. Both sides actually panned out pretty well on that, but they still not no matchup for Golden State.
Listen, Golden State's the favorite. Golden State's the favorite, but I got to tell you something, Rock. Cleveland got better. They're better now than they were yesterday. Why can't you compete? You got the best player in the world. I don't want any excuses. I don't want any excuses.
Ain't gonna be no excuses at all. But we already know LeBron gonna shoot another video after the season over with.
Yeah.
You already know he's gonna shoot another video.
I feel you on that, bro. I feel you on that, bro. You right there. You got to stay relevant, right? Yep. I appreciate that. Brandon, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Brandon?
Yo, what's up, Stephen A? Man, look, Cleveland got away with a great deal. I understand Kyrie is great, and I feel like there's not a vast difference between him and Isaiah Thomas, and there's still the unknown variable of what Gordon Hayward is going to look like with the Celtics. But considering the fact that they got that haul they got, you bring in Jay Crowder, it makes you more flexible as far as playing small ball, especially if you need to get Kevin Love off the floor when it comes to switching and things of that nature. And then you got the first pick, and then whatever Ante Zizic, whatever his name is, whatever he turns out to be, if it's a plus, that's just automatic. And then we can't forget that Dwayne Wade is probably on the way, too, once he gets bought out, Stephen A.
Well, D-Wade, listen, what do you mean you can't forget it? I reported it weeks ago. I mean, the fact of the matter is that he's going to get bought out by Chicago. Miami's got their mid-level exception waiting to give to him. And then and if he doesn't take it, it'll be because he makes one last run with LeBron in Cleveland. It's clear what's going to happen. It's one of the two things. So, I mean, you can't count the possibility of Dwayne Wade ended up there. But outside of that, what is it that we say? What is it that what can you do? Got to see what's going to happen. That's all you can do. You got to see what's going to happen.
I got one more question for you. Considering all the moves that have been done in the NBA offseason with Chris Paul, Butler, George, now this whole Kyrie fiasco, are you still under the mindset that Kevin Durant has just ruled in the NBA for the foreseeable future? Or is it going to be competitive this year? Because my juices is full. I'm ready for the season.
No. I told you, man. I told you. Kevin Durant ruined the season for me last year. Kevin Durant ruined it because, he stacked the deck. Listen, listen, I'm not disrespecting Kevin Durant. I'm acknowledging his greatness. He's too damn great to end up going to Golden State. Now, obviously, there's nothing that anybody can say because he went there to win a title, and he did it. And he was the MVP of the finals, and deservedly so. He averaged 35 for crying out loud. He had a big-time shot in Game 3. You understand? To fuel that comeback. The guy is sensational. I'm just saying it's a crying damn shame that somebody that great, can end up joining Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And I'm old school. Listen, it's just the way that I am. He stacked the deck. It's a cakewalk. He should win 3 titles. Easy. Kevin, the Golden State Warriors should 3-peat. Damn near easy, bar an injury. There's nobody that's on their level because of Durant and Steph Curry. It's just the way it is. Gotta go. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. More talk about Kyrie going to the Boston Celtics and LeBron having his deck stacked a little bit extra himself. Plus John Bones Jones and the unfortunate saga that surrounds him and more in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Let me say this because there's a couple of things here that are incredibly, incredibly important. Those of you who may not know, some very, very, very sad news that came out last night about John Bones Jones, the UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. John Bones Jones tested positive for steroids. That's what it says. That's what the news is right now. It's pretty sad. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm hurt. I'm hurt talking about this story because I'm very fond of this guy. I think that he is phenomenal. I really, really believe that. I really think that he's special. And I think that sport is great when he's around. And with him not around, it's just hard to put into words. He's 30 years old. And he was tested, I presume, before his fight July 29th versus Daniel Cormier. And the news story says he tested positive during the weigh-in for his last fight against Daniel Cormier. It says he will be stripped of his title, even though he hasn't been stripped as of yet. For those of you who missed it, he knocked out Daniel Cormier, kick to the head, and then after that, Daniel Cormier was wobbled, went down, and John Bones Jones was all over him. According to some reports, I don't know how accurate it is, but according to some reports, because it's the second time Jones has failed a drug test by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. Remember, he was suspended because he tested positive before UFC 200 last year. It says the title will be handed back to Daniel Cormier, and Jones could face a ban of up to 4 years. UFC statement reads, the UFC organization was notified today that the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, has informed John Jones of a potential anti-doping policy violation stemming from an in-competition sample collected following his weigh-in on July 28, 2017. USADA, the independent administrator of the UFC anti-doping policy, will handle the results management and appropriate adjudication of this case involving Jones as it relates to the UFC anti-doping policy and future UFC participation. Under the UFC anti-doping policy, there is a full and fair legal process that is afforded to all athletes before any sanctions are imposed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bad. This is bad beyond measure. And it's bad because this isn't cocaine or some other drug where you have a dependence and you're harmful to yourself. When you see something like that, you pray for somebody, you wish them the best. Now, if you're engaging, if you're committing these mistakes over and over and over again, it's an exercise in stupidity, and we got to call it what it is. But in the end, our sympathy is with you. And more importantly, our heart goes out to you, and we want you to get well and do better. When it's performance-enhancing drugs, that's an entirely different ballgame, because that means you did something and you took something to give you an advantage over the competition. And I can't understand for the life of me how the guy named John Bones Jones, who I consider to be the best in the world, would need to have that advantage. It makes no sense to me. And when you look at it, I also feel sorry for Daniel Cormier. Because I remember how heated their discussions were and how much he couldn't stand John Bones Jones and vice versa. And then when John Bones Jones tested positive for cocaine and ultimately having some element of cocaine in the system, and ultimately he was suspended for a year and couldn't fight and all of this other stuff. Daniel Cormier, I remember that press conference when he was just sad but so incredibly respectful. And was all about wishing John Bones Jones well, and that he'd get better and he'd get back in the octagon. And then you come back and you test positive for the steroids, you knock him out. But apparently, allegedly, you were performance enhanced. How fair is that to Daniel Cormier? And when broached about the subject, I believe last night or earlier this morning, Daniel Cormier was quoted as saying, I just don't know what to think anymore. And what else is he supposed to say? What else is he supposed to say? But ladies and gentlemen, this steroids thing is real. The one thing that you hear about John Bones Jones and some UFC fighters is that you see them frequently around bodybuilders. That's what you hear. And when you think about it from that perspective, we can't ignore this any longer. I mean, we want to talk about being role models and looking out for kids. We gotta step up. We gotta speak up. You got this guy, Dallas McCarver, dead at age 26, supposedly choking on food in his home in Florida, but you have people intimating possible PED use. You've got the GAT Nutrition, GAT, that's what they're called. They wanted everybody to know they're not responsible for John Bones Jones' failed PED test. They said, our products are fine. All of our products are legal. Mark Post, vice president for GAT Nutrition, issued the statement, nothing John is using from GAT contains anything that is banned. We do extensive third-party testing, and we know he has been tested several times. Everything has come up clear. We have no idea what has changed in what he has taken over the last month. We don't live with John, and we don't even know what the banned substance is. They don't want to hear their names brought up because he appeared to be blaming the supplement. They're trying to say they don't want to hear it. But he's been seen with bodybuilders. And bodybuilders themselves will tell you the one word you never hear associated with us is the word health. Because they sacrifice a lot and do a lot of damage to themselves to look the way that they look. Because they're competing. And that's not always the greatest thing. In terms of what they do and what they're willing to put into their bodies to get the look that they want to have. We got kids out there that think it's okay to use this stuff. We got young adults dying. We have individuals who have been class personified and have exercised fairness within the rules, getting cheated because they're going up against others who allegedly and reportedly are performance enhanced. We got a problem, ladies and gentlemen. We can't ignore it. 866-729 ESPN's the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. Back to your phone calls in a minute. Reminding you, Mikey Garcia, lightweight champion of the world, is expected to be on the show with us hour number 2. Stick around. Jam-packed show coming your way right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Give Stephen A. piece of your mind.
He is sorry.
Call him weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
I mean, just trash.
At 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Jay. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jay?
Hey, how's it going, Stephen A?
I'm all right. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say I think Cleveland came out on top on this one here. You know, when the first call came out, I tried to call in, but I think they can beat the Golden State Warriors. I'm gonna go that far with it.
Cleveland?
You know, they got Crowder. He's gonna be able to get Draymond Green. You know, and that's gonna set their whole team down pretty much. I got one more point I wanted to make when all this was coming out. Kyrie, you know, he was elevated by LeBron's game, so I don't really look at him as no superstar, maybe a star, you know, but
no, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. He's a star. The reason why I give him just a tad notch above is because he closed. You know, it wasn't like he was a spectator or a bystander. You know, a bystander. This dude showed up, and he had a lot to do. You got to remember, the year they won the championship, he averaged 27. This year in the finals, he averaged 29. I mean, it's not like the dude just showed up and spectated and said, LeBron, could you help me, please? You know, he showed up too. And I think that has to be noticed is all I'm trying to say.
Well, he never seen the playoffs before LeBron came. So
yeah, but he had just came into the league, Jay. I mean, that was his first 3 years in the league. First 3 years in the league, went 21, 24, and then 33 games. And then after that, LeBron arrived. So what I'm saying to you is that it's not like the dude was in no man's land and heading nowhere. He was climbing and climbing and climbing, and he was putting people on the map. And you know what else Kyrie never gets credit for, Jay? Let me tell you the biggest thing. LeBron, when he departed for South Beach, who did he go to play with, Jay?
He went to play with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade.
Right? What you think he did? What you think he did with Cleveland? Came back to play eventually with Iman Shumpert? What do you think he was doing?
Well, he was coming back home. Kyrie was there.
So let me get this straight. So, Jay, you trying to sit here with a straight face and act like LeBron just wanted to be home around the family, huh? Like Kyrie ain't had nothing to do with his willingness to come home. Like looking at Kyrie being young at the time, only 21, 22 years of age, and the baller that he was, they ain't had nothing to do with LeBron willing to come back home, huh? That's what you willing to say?
Well, I ain't gonna say that, but like
he's not LeBron.
About the Cleveland trade, though, they got the better deal on that. Let me say that.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, they got the better deal, and
they got more bodies. They got more bodies.
They got to watch. LeBron plus all these other people. So I think that's what's going to give them that advantage to knock.
We'll see.
That's
what I said. That's what I said. I appreciate the call, Jay. Thank you so much. I get your point. No doubt. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Stephen A., my guy. Yes. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, man.
Sure.
Usually I agree with you, but hear me out on this one. I think Boston got the best of this trade. 2 reasons, looking at it from both perspectives. Number one, you keep mentioning that Cleveland got 3 starters to replace Kyrie. So, but what they're ultimately getting is another Iman Shumpert and Jay Crowder, in my opinion, just bigger. You're getting Isaiah Thomas coming off injury, and you're getting an injury-prone Derrick Rose. So you're hoping they all stay healthy. But you're looking at it from Boston's point of view, you're getting a 25-year-old proven closer who you have signed for another 2 years to go along with the Haywards, with the Tatums, with the Jaylen Browns. So in my opinion, Boston won this trade because you're getting a proven closer who's hit the big shot against Golden State to uplift Cleveland 2 years ago in the finals. And you're getting on the other side 2 guys who are injured and another Iman Shumpert just bigger. No closer on that team, in my opinion.
Well, I disagree with you, Chris, respectfully, because I understand your point and your points are valid. But I think I'm not talking about the trade itself got them 3 bodies because it's really Crowder and Isaiah Thomas. But you got to remember they acquired Derrick Rose in the offseason. They acquired Jeff Green. And so you have 4 individuals that have started for teams primarily throughout their career. And then you lose 1 starter. So and even though you lost that starter who was an offensive juggernaut, you also gained an offensive juggernaut in Isaiah Thomas, who's proven that he could be there. And by the way, he did it in Boston without LeBron. So with LeBron on the court being a decoy, a distraction, who happens to be the best player in the world, don't tell me that's not going to help Isaiah Thomas. So when you look at that, and then you look at Crowder, who could spell for LeBron defensively, but also offensively could help add a little something, because he can hit perimeter shots. He's big and physical as well. He's a rough rider. You got Derrick Rose, who's experienced as a point guard. You got Jeff Green, who could also spell for LeBron and all of this other stuff. And not only that, they're interchangeable parts where the capability is there for them to be on the floor together if they don't want Kevin Love on the floor with them. So all of those things being considered and adding depth to the greatest player in the world, looking to go up against the Golden State Warriors, I would say Cleveland got the better end of this deal, albeit slightly, because neither team walked away with a bad deal here. Kyrie is good for Boston, but these other parts are good for Cleveland.
Yes, sir. I agree. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. I know you got to run. So do you believe that LeBron goes through Isaiah to close the game? Let's say they get back to the finals, like how he did with Kyrie 2 years ago.
I think when a shot is needed, yes. It wouldn't surprise me at all if LeBron gave up the ball to Isaiah to hit a shot. Absolutely. I think he would. I think he would to some degree, just like he did with Kyrie. That's why I say this is still a very, very significant thing. Look, Cleveland is no joke, and I appreciate the call, Chris. Thank you so much. I'm not saying Cleveland's better than Golden State. I'm saying Cleveland is better than they were yesterday. Just like Boston is better than they were yesterday. I think Boston needed Kyrie desperately. Cleveland needed him, but Boston needed him desperately. He's bigger and stronger and just as skilled as Isaiah. So not having other parts to really give the ball to is something that Kyrie could have dealt with better than even Isaiah. The difference is he has Gordon Hayward now, too. Things are getting very, very interesting. I'll tell you this much, though. If you're the Washington Wizards, you can't be happy. If you didn't go to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, you damn sure ain't going now. 866-729-ESPN's the number to call up. The Trade, John Bones Jones, and then some. Mikey Garcia, too. Hour number 2 up next. Don't touch that dial.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
It's all-pro tight end Rob Gronkowski. And nothing fuels my patented Gronk spike like all-natural Alberto beef jerky. Lean beef, slow-cooked, and seasoned to perfection. It's all natural and all delicious. Don't take a chance with some wimpy snack. Go with protein-packed, all-natural Alberto beef jerky.
Alberto beef jerky. You get out what you put in.
Refers to Alberto's all-natural line of beef jerkies. Minimally processed, no artificial ingredients.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 for the Stephen A. Smith Show, here with you for the next hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up as always. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. We got so much stuff to get into. Let's go right back to the phone. My man Carlton in Massachusetts is on the line with us right now. What's going on, Big Time? How are you, sir? How's everything?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Listen, I'm reading today about Hank Aaron coming out and supporting, Colin Kaepernick getting another opportunity to, be a quarterback in the NFL. Sure. And I'm reading all about the rallies that are being held, I guess, around the country and also at NFL headquarters today to try to get Colin Kaepernick a job. And I want to juxtapose it with a story I also read on The Hill, which is the publication that tracks what's going on in Washington in legislation and so forth. Okay. So as you've pointed out, Colin Kaepernick, inadvertently or purposely, and I tend to believe purposely, has offended in the last few months the owner of the Ravens organization, the star player, historical player of the Ravens in Ray Lewis, our police forces in this country by wearing socks to practice depicting them as pigs, the Cuban-American population for wearing a Castro T-shirt, and they're still suffering because of the former Castro regime. So he has offended all of these groups, currently. Mm-hmm. And then I read that a play-by-play announcer by the name of Robert Lee, who is going to broadcast a televised game against the University of Virginia versus William and Mary, a college game this fall, has been removed from his position lest it potentially offend his name, potentially offend, I guess, the African-American community. So somehow equating the name of a guy who lived 165 years ago can get a guy removed of his job, his current job, and that's okay with the social justice warriors and I guess the African-American community. But Colin Kaepernick, who has purposely offended one group after another, we're going to rally to get him his job back. Can you please explain this to me? I want somebody to explain this to me.
Well, let me tell you why I'm the wrong person for you to ask that question to, Carlton. It's because I 1,000% agree with you. Here's the problem. iNetwork decided to take Robert Lee off that UVA game. They didn't fire him and reassign him permanently or whatever the case may be. From my understanding, it was from that particular game. I believe I read a quote, and I'm looking for it now. I think the quote said from network executives, they made a collectively made the decision with Roberts to switch games as the tragic events in Charlottesville were unfolding. In that moment, it felt right to all parties. It's a shame that this is even a topic of conversation, and we regret that who calls play-by-play for a football game has become an issue. So in defense of this company, ESPN, the executives were trying not to offend folks, and they were looking at the times that were existing. Here's my problem with it. The reason why, and again, I'm an employee, and these are my executives, and I work for this company. And
I realize you got to tread carefully.
Well, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm very, very proud to work for ESPN, and I think that by and large, for the most part, ESPN does right.
It's a great company, a great organization.
Let me explain. Usually when we do things wrong, it's for the right reasons because our heart's in the right place and we're not trying to offend anybody. But what I would say to folks that call up with your stance is simply this: to, lambaste and excoriate and distance yourself from those who discriminate. We ended up doing it ourselves. Because this guy's name is Robert Lee. He has nothing to do with General Robert E. Lee, which caused a whole uproar with Charlottesville because a statue was being removed and what have you. We have to be careful. And it points to me, Carlton, what you have called in and talked about on many, many occasions as it pertains to justice warriors. Sometimes I'm one of those justice warriors, but sometimes I'm willing to step back and concede somebody like you has made a very, very profound point, because we tend to go so far with it that we end up defeating the purpose of what we were really trying to do. Take, for example, this election. You see this rally with our president last night? Did you see how many people were there?
I did.
And guess why so many people were there? Argument could be made because of stuff like this. In terms of, we go beyond. I'm not talking about ESPN now. I'm talking about in general. We go beyond the scope in an effort to try to do the right things. We're so ultra sensitive to every little thing. Everybody is saying, my God, come on. And this is one of those situations where people are saying, my God, come on. So it's a lesson to all of us that in an effort to do the right things, sometimes the right thing is just letting it go, as opposed to trying to make yourself a part of those quote-unquote justice warriors.
Yep.
Did I answer that to your completion?
You did. And last week I pointed out the three the Oregon schools that voted to remove the name Lynch from their name, because lest it offends somebody. And I pointed out that then poor Marshawn Lynch and Paxton Lynch are going to have to change their names. This is the bonkers bill that we're getting into.
It's on a case-by-case basis. We can't blanketly lean towards what you're saying. We can't blanketly lean towards what ESPN elected to do with Robert Lee just yesterday or the other day or whatever. We can't go there. It's got to be on a case-by-case basis. But it is a cautionary tale to credit where you're coming from. We don't need to overreact to everything. I'm not talking about this company. I'm talking about all of us. Some things, just let it go. It's not nearly what we try to make it into. It's not nearly as serious as we try to make it.
Let me ask you this then, though, Stephen A.
Sure.
Should all these groups that are championing for Colin Kaepernick to get his job at least point out the fact that he's offended enormous numbers of people in this country purposely? Should they not at least be sensitive to that fact?
They should be sensitive to that fact, but at the same time, you can have a problem with him, but you shouldn't walk around looking at an American citizen who exercised his rights and saying he shouldn't be employed.
Stephen A. Not talking about his kneeling, talking about his pig socks, talking about his Castro T-shirt, talking about him equating Steve Bisciotti and Ray Lewis to...
Well, let me ask you this question. Hold on, let me ask you this question, Carlton. Fair enough. I'll give you that. Fair enough.
He's fired, Stephen A. You equated your boss to that.
But wait a minute. The difference is the boss would be clear about why he's firing me. The NFL is hiding behind why they're ostracizing Colin Kaepernick. See the difference?
No,
think about it.
So. I think it's each individual team making their own decision.
But if one owner, come on, Carlton, not one single owner came out and said, I don't like what you did, you ain't playing for my team.
Well, look at more than 20 of them don't need them. I mean, they already have the guys.
But
you're
I'm
only
saying,
talking 5 or 6 teams.
Carlton, we're talking principle. We're talking principle here. I'm saying to you, just like you said, my boss, my job would fire me. They would tell you why. So in other words, why do you get as a league to hide behind something and not reveal openly why you might be ostracizing somebody? You do have an obligation to do that.
Look at, I banked that the Dolphins didn't hire him for the at least in part because of the Castor T-shirt. I banked that the Ravens didn't hire him in part because he created the owner with DiCaprio.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Carlton. But why couldn't Steve Bisciotti come out and say, damn it, I ain't tolerating that? Who the hell do you think you are?
More people need to have a backbone in this.
There you go. That's where I'm going.
They're afraid of being overrun by the social justice warriors, Stephen A.
But if you're a billionaire and you're afraid, shame on you. Because Carlton,
they need to stand up. But that's the real reason why Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job, not because
But let's be clear. But let's be clear. America, as a society and as a mosaic, is basically saying, don't try to camouflage what you're doing to somebody in our society. Let us know. And I promise you, if owners came out and said, frankly, what they thought and how they felt about Colin Kaepernick, wouldn't be nearly as many protests. I promise you that.
Well,
think about it, Carlton.
If he got a job and then didn't succeed and he got cut, are we going to have all the social justice warriors again protesting?
Nope, because his record would speak for itself. And that would be that. Got to run, Carlton. Appreciate the call, buddy.
Catch the Stephen A. Smith Show live on 98.7 ESPN New York, ESPN LA 710, and Sirius XM Channel 80.
You just can't make this stuff up.
Weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Full of points that need to be made. Thanks to Carlton for bringing that up. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, do y'all remember an announcer that was working in Baltimore, Maryland, if I remember correctly? I think he was calling Ravens games. His name was Jerry Sandusky. Now, he wasn't the Jerry Sandusky that were molesting kids at Penn State University as a coach there. He wasn't that guy. He was working Ravens games. He was on camera. One of those cameras was ESPN. Reminding the world, that's not me. I don't think anybody would have confused Robert Lee with General Robert E. Lee from the Civil War. Got my man Bob Lee for Outside the Lines. Journalist extraordinaire for ESPN, saying he's got to make sure his ID, we're joking about how he's got to make sure his ID works because it's Bob Lee. It's spelled differently, L-E-Y, but his name is Robert Lee. Just the kind of stuff to point out that people like Carlton at times have great points. Don't need to overreact. That's all. But I repeat, I'd rather work for a company that have standards than one looking for them. That has morals and sensitivities than one looking for them. And the executives at this company, I believe their heart was in the right place. They made a mistake. That's all. I think Robert Lee is still employed by us. I think he'll be fine. Back to the phones we go. 866-729-ESPN. Paul in Long Island. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Stephen A.
Yes, sir. If Floyd wins, he's going to be 50-0. Okay? If he loses by miracle, he's 49-1. You cannot dispute that. You can't argue about whether or not it should be sanctioned.
I can't argue about it. I can't argue about it, and I will. I don't feel that he deserves to be 50-0 because he got in a ring with a man that had never been in a ring before as a boxer. You're not the only West Indian. You're not the only West Indian on this microphone, you know.
I know about you, Miss Steven.
You didn't know you remember my West Indian roots. Come on now.
I know
you know it's all love. You know it's all love. You know it's all love. Go ahead.
But listen, let me tell you something. The reason why he should be sanctioned is because Collins a fighter of some degree. Now he's not in Floyd's caliber. He's not that caliber of fighter, but he to some degree.
No, I'm not saying he's not a fighter. I'm not saying he's not a fighter, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve our respect. I'm saying, as a boxer, he's never stepped into the ring with any other boxer in his career. So to go automatically to a champion who's undefeated and universally recognized as one of the greatest ever, it's sanctioned, but it's essentially a sanctioned exhibition.
But guess
when
what?
when Ali fought a wrestler, he didn't have a wrestling record. And I don't think the wrestler counted it as a victory either.
The caveat to this one here, I agree with you. The caveat is that it's not a championship fight. So as long as it's just a regular fight, and they have 12 rounds, 3 minutes, but the glove size and everything else, right? But it's also the intrigue. Right now, if Anthony Joshua were to fight Mike Tyson, right, if it was sanctioned, Mike Tyson doesn't belong in there with Anthony Joshua, but you would still watch it. It's the intrigue. That's going to bring it there on Saturday night.
We just respectfully disagree, Paul, but I appreciate it, man, and I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Ralph in Miami. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ralph? Talk to me.
What's going on, Stephen A?
Go ahead, man. Raise that volume, bro. We can't sit up there and hear you if you're trying to sound like Marvin Gaye. God rest his soul. Raise that volume, bro. Go ahead.
Question is,
raise the voice. I can't hear you.
Isaiah Thomas getting traded for Kyrie. My thing is this: why is Boston giving away all their role players? They think they're going to be better with just Kyrie and Gordon Hayward?
They didn't give away. The only role player they gave away basically was Crowder.
What about
they
Bradley?
gave away a start? They gave away Crowder and Isaiah.
But they lost Bradley too. Two of their best defenders.
Well, they didn't want to pay him. And not only that, you got Jaylen Brown on the come up, and they believe in him. So you got Jaylen Brown, you got Marcus Smart, who deserves some PT because he's an elite defender. Okay, you got him and Jaylen Brown. You added Gordon Hayward. You still have Al Horford. Now you got Kyrie. Okay, Kelly Olynyk left for Miami with you. But what I'm saying to you is that they have to sit up there and think about, Bradley was going to want some money down the hill. Isaiah Thomas was going to want that money.
I think the team,
and because he was only making $6.2 million, you had to include Crowder in the deal in order to make it work.
Believe it or not, teams that benefit the most out of this trade is Miami, Washington, and Toronto.
How?
Because these guys got weaker. Boston got weaker. Cleveland's going to be weaker in a year.
Boston did not get weaker, and neither did Cleveland if LeBron stays.
If he stays.
Well, call me back when he leaves. But until he leaves, Cleveland didn't get weaker. And Boston certainly hasn't gotten weaker. And don't get me started on Washington. What have they done?
Washington could beat Boston right now.
No, they can't. How you gonna say such nonsense and they just finished losing to Boston with the crew they have? How you gonna say that?
I think John Wall's coming back stronger this year.
That ain't the point. What's that? What happened the last time you saw him?
You're right. But it took
which evidence? That's right. You giving me emotion. What happened in Game 7? Bradley Beal showed up and dropped 39. What happened to LeBron? I love John Wall, but what happened to him in the last 19 minutes?
You're right. Same thing that happened to James Harden.
And what happened to Scott Brooks? What happened to Scott Brooks? As much as I like him, choking instead of playing the rookie out of Kansas, Kelly Oubre. How you gonna put him on the bench and play him 1 minute?
You're right. They should have played Kelly Oubre.
No, don't call up here and talk about the Washington Wizards. Don't you dare. Have a nice day. Get it together. Want to hear that? I want to hear that. Unacceptable. Vaughn in Oakland, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Vaughn?
Thanks, Stephen A. for taking my call.
Go ahead, bro.
And I appreciate you taking my call. I've been trying to call you,
bro. Go ahead.
January. But,
all right. What's going on?
Yeah, on this, the guy Carlton that called in, man, you know, I wish these people would show a lot of passion for blacks who be getting killed by cops. You know, cops got the name by pigs. You know, I'm from Oakland, and the Black Panthers, man, started the pigs because the pigs was brutal to blacks. That's how they got the name pigs. And when you act like a pig, you be called a pig.
Stop right there.
Now,
Stop right there. Stop, Vaughn, stop right there. Let me and you have a quick conversation, okay? Let me and you have a quick conversation. We know there's been brutality on the part of police officers, on the part of some police officers. Nobody's denying that, okay? But let's be honest about something, too. Very, very important, Vaughn, and I'm sure you will agree. We talk about police officers as if all of them white. There's Latino police officers. There's black police officers. And by the way, there are black criminals. Everybody ain't wrong all the time. Sometimes it is police brutality. Sometimes it's criminals. Sometimes it is a white police officer. In Baltimore, there were some black police officers involved in that, Vaughn, with the whole Freddie Gray situation. You feel where I'm coming from?
But I'm not that. I never said that, and I know all cops.
No, I'm not accusing. I'm not accusing you of saying. No, Vaughn, I'm not accusing you of saying that. I'm not accusing you of saying anything wrong. I'm just saying that you're telling one side, and so all I'm trying to do is give perspective as to the Carltons of the world and others also have a side. You ain't the only one with the side. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth. Both of y'all ain't right on extreme pendulums. That's all I'm trying to say.
But Stephen A.
Yes,
People
sir.
got to show passion when these blacks and Latinos is getting gunned down. But no, do they come to the table and stress their frustration?
Can I tell you something? Did I tell you something that's gonna make you highly upset, but you're gonna know it's the truth? But it's gonna make you highly upset, Vaughn. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
If white folks were suffering from police brutality, how many black folks would be in an uproar?
Not that many. I would concur. Not that many.
Right. So what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say to you is, we have a heightened level of sensitivity because we're a disenfranchised community that's directly affected. Somebody who comes from a different community, whereas they may be sympathetic and empathetic, may not have the level of sensitivity that we have because they ain't black. So even though you're right about what you're wishing for, you and I both know that's a lot to ask because it's not something we would exercise either, because we relate to what directly affects and impacts us. So why do we abhor the inability for other folks to do the same from time to time? That's all I'm saying. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I got you on that. You know.
Vaughn, your voice faded. Do me a favor. Call back tomorrow. Let's talk about this a little bit more because I know I'm cutting you short and I apologize because we could barely hear you and I got a hard break. But I'll talk to you about it tomorrow, my brother. I promise, and I appreciate the call. 866-729-ESPN. Mikey Garcia, the super lightweight champion of the world, is up next to talk about Floyd and Conor and himself. Live right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Waiting to talk to this gentleman. He's got a few friends that know me well. Told me I needed to watch him. And that's exactly what I did. And boy, is he impressive. I'm talking about the super lightweight champion of the world. He is 37-0 with 30 KOs. His name is Mikey Garcia. And he's on the line with us right now. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's up, my man? I'm good. Thank you.
Hey, man.
Pleasure being on the show, man.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming on the show, A, and B, congratulations to all your success. I mean, listen, put it in perspective. I mean, when people say, who's Mikey Garcia? Where did this guy come from? How would you answer that question?
Well, I'm just a kid from Oxnard, now living in Moreno Valley, and just doing my job inside of the ring. That's all that it really is.
You know, when people look at you, and I mean, you know, we haven't heard much about you until, especially you beat up Adrian Broner. You know, your activity, obviously, you know, I picked you to win that fight because Adrian Broner didn't seem to like to throw too many punches. He seems a bit lazy in the ring in terms of activity. That certainly is not your problem. You certainly gonna throw some punches. Going into that fight on July 29th, what was your mentality? What did you think you needed to do to win the fight? And how did you feel about your overall performance in that fight?
Well, you know what? We had a great camp with my brother Robert and my dad Eduardo. You know, we had 10 weeks of camp to get ready, and we had a good strategy, a good game plan. We felt that Adrian Broner would be a stronger opponent based on size, and you know, he's got great skills also. So we needed to make sure that we had a good game plan, which was to box smart, you know, be effective with the combinations, not just rely on one punch, you know, for the night. So, and that's what we worked on. And as the rounds, you know, started in the fight, I started picking up the pace little by little. As the rounds progressed, I picked up the volume even more. And then it was, I think, like the 9th, 10th round when my brother told me, look, the fight is basically won. Let's not get, you know, too excited over anything here. Adrian Broner's going to come with everything he has because he knows he's losing. So be careful, be smart. Just pick up the volume punch even more, pick combinations, but this time box on the outside, walk backwards, circle around him, and just keep winning the rounds like that, scoring points. And that's what we did. So I was actually very, very happy with the performance. I think I showed, you know, the fans and the media, you know, another side of what I'm able to do inside a boxing ring.
Undefeated super lightweight champion Mikey Garcia is live right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Now, let me ask you this question. Where do you consider yourself at this point in time in your career? Lightweight, junior, welterweight. Where are you? Where do you consider yourself to be? Where do you want to fight for the immediate future?
Well, I think I'm pretty flexible between lightweight and super lightweight. You know, 135 and 140 seem to be pretty comfortable weights for me right now. I feel comfortable. The only difference is that at 140 pounds, I'm fighting bigger men, which, you know, in turn might be able to hold up, you know, longer and stronger, and I may not be able to hurt them as easy, but I feel fast, I feel strong. I think, you know, 135 and 140 are very good divisions for me.
Well, I asked you that question, Mikey, because here we are. You've got this kid in the junior lightweight division at 130 pounds. His name is Vasyl Lomachenko, who's considered one of the best in the world, and you got a promoter like Bob Arum calling him the best boxer since Muhammad Ali. The guy's like an amateur record of 396-1. That's why he's a champion with only 10 fights on his resume. But up in weight division, the junior welterweight division, you got somebody widely considered one of the best in the world right now in Terrence Crawford. So who do you believe you're more suited to fight? Because at 37-0 with 30 KOs, those are two of the biggest names in boxing, and where you are weight-wise, clearly you should be fighting one of them. Which one would it be if you had your preference?
Well, at 135 pounds, if Lomachenko is ready to move up to 135, I'm ready to take on that challenge there. If Crawford decided to stay at 140 one more time, you know, I'd also be, you know, happy to jump in the ring with him. But being realistic about things, being that they're with Top Rank, my former promoter, who has not had any nice things to say about me in the past few weeks, I really doubt that those fights can be made, at least not for the moment, you know, anytime soon.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Somebody got to make a fight with you because you're 37-0 with 30 KOs. I want to hear that nonsense. I mean, I understand where you coming from, but I'm going to have to talk to Top Rank. I'm going to have to talk to a few people about that because Mikey Garcia, listen, you 37-0 with 30 KOs. I want to see you in the ring with the best. That's me. So I definitely, there's no question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's what I want. You know, that's what I want. I want to be in there with the best. That's what I told everybody. You know, after my long layoff, you know, I would return, come back stronger than ever, and take on the biggest names, the biggest challenges available. In only my second fight, I fought for a world title, a lightweight world title against an undefeated, you know, KO artist in Dijon. Now, you know, we fought Adrian Broner at 140 pounds, who he's been champion in 4 different divisions. He's been champion all the way up to welterweight. You know, so I want to take big challenges, and I'm ready and I'm prepared to do that.
But the quick question, I need a quick answer on this before I get to some other stuff. Quick answer on this. Where is your preference? Do you want to fight as a lightweight and a champion in that division, or do you want to fight at the junior welterweight division? Where do you want to go?
Honestly, I don't have a preference. The biggest fight available at either 135 or 140, that's what I'm going to take.
Got you. Mikey Garcia, super lightweight champion, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Now let's get to this Floyd Money Mayweather, Conor McGregor fight. You're a boxer. How do you feel about the fact that one of the all-time greats like Money Mayweather is even allowing a guy like Conor McGregor, a UFC champion, no doubt, a fighter extraordinaire, but somebody who's never boxed professionally before? How do you as a boxer feel about a fighter the caliber of Mayweather allowing somebody who's never boxed professionally to get in the ring with him?
Look, I think he's earned everything he has accomplished in a boxing ring, and because of that, I think he's allowed to do what he's doing and fighting McGregor because it just makes sense for the show, for the business side. I don't quite agree that it should count on the record as another victory, because he's really not fighting a boxer. But, I mean, it's politics and business, and I understand that, which a lot of fans and other boxing, viewers won't understand. But I understand why the fight's happening, and, I'm okay with it. It's history in the making, two sports joining together. It's going to be a show, and that's what you want to, know that you're buying into this.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think Floyd wins. Whatever he wants to do, I think Floyd can carry him as many rounds as he wants, and I'm actually thinking very, very highly chance. I think Floyd takes him 12 rounds and allows Conor to be, successful a few moments, a few rounds, just to make the fight a little more fun and a little exciting and possibly even land a rematch.
Do you think that McGregor, with his size, his power, and the techniques that could be employed by UFC fighters in terms of their, when you're holding and grappling and things of that nature, the kind of things a hell of a lot better than most that happens in the sport of boxing. Do you think any of those things give him a chance to pull off a miracle?
No. No. He will bring out, different angles, different punching combinations because he's a different fighter. And that might give Floyd, some trouble early on because he's not used to certain punches and coming from different angles, like I'm saying. But Floyd is just the best boxer that I've ever seen, and he'll make the adjustments quick and be able to take control of the fight, right away.
So you don't think it's going to be a knockout? You think it's going to be a decision?
I don't think it'll be a knockout. I think Mayweather will win a decision.
I got you. Mikey Garcia, proud of you, man. Keep up the great work. 37-0 with 30 KOs. Super lightweight champion of the world. Mikey Garcia live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Thanks a lot, buddy. Good luck in the future, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Stephen. Pleasure to be on the show.
No problem, buddy. The one and only Mikey Garcia right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. You don't know him. He's not a box office name. But I wanted him on this show because, damn it, he's good. And I watched him beat Broner. And I watched him outwork him. And I watched this dude destroy everybody else that's come within his face. And I looked at Vasily Lomachenko. And I said, hey, the way he's abusing that division, it would be nice to see him fight a Mikey Garcia. I'm looking at a Terrence Crawford. Probably not so much against Mikey Garcia because Terrence Crawford's looking to move up, whereas Mikey Garcia would have to move up to fight him, which I don't think would necessarily be wise because Terrence Crawford is something special. Just like I wouldn't encourage, as great as Terrence Crawford is, to step up and fight Errol Spence Jr., my favorite right now. Actually, let me take that back because I love me some Andre Ward, but that's just me.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Let's go to Sergio in the Bronx. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Sergio.
Yeah, I listen to your show every day, and I just wanted to comment on that dude Carlton. I think he's the prime example of why Caucasians shouldn't comment on certain things. He's talking about being offended about some socks. I'm offended every time a brother and sister is murdered at the hands of law enforcement and nothing happens. What he's talking about? He's talking about socks.
Can I ask you a question, though? I get your point, and you're right, but can I ask you a question real quick, Sergio?
Sure.
Would you rather folks shut up and never let you know how they feel?
No, of course course not. I love it.
But that's what I'm saying. In other words, what I'm saying is, I'm saying respect the disagreement. In other words, because now you know what you're pointing to. You know, you're enlightened. You're better and more enlightened now than you were before he called, because you got a different perspective that you don't like, that you don't approve of, that you don't agree. But now you can articulate your points why. So when you call up and you make that point, and it's piggybacking off the point that he made, it's far more profound, because you just ain't whistling into the wind. You have a position to take against a position that somebody else had. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I just don't really think his position really holds any weight or any value. He's talking about stocks.
Well,
so I'm offended that people's lives are being taken. Just
symbols,
like with,
symbols contribute to people's lives being taken. Symbols contribute to people's lives being taken. That's the problem.
Even with Kaepernick's protest and, people being offended at that, at the end of the day, it's a piece of cloth and a song. We're talking about people's lives, which is more important.
Good point. I hear you, and I appreciate the call. Thank you. Nick, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Nick, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Stephen A.? I just wanted to ask you about the whole Kyrie trade. It seems like the Cavs kind of robbed the Celtics, but what I'm intrigued with is that number 1 pick. Do you think Cleveland will flip it around to get someone to help LeBron this season?
Who knows? We'll see. We don't know. We have to wait to see how the season unfolds. Cleveland has the option to do a lot of things with it. Having that number 1 pick, having that first round pick that could turn into the number 1 pick, because it's a pick that belonged to the Brooklyn Nets and we expect them to stink, obviously is something that could be very attractive to various teams out there. So we'll have to see what happens. But I don't think Boston got robbed. I think both teams improved themselves with this trade, personally. Thanks for the call. Jordan, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead.
Again, another NBA season predictable. Cavs and the Warriors predicted 7 games, and that's what we're going to see how it's all going to fall out then. And one question I always wanted to ask you, because I'm a big fan of it. For the last 18 years, I've been a fan of Young and Restless. Who do you think is the better villain? Victor Newman or your boy from
Sonny Corinthos? Well, no, not Sonny Corinthos from General Hospital. First of all, both of those.
Yeah, General Hospital. There you go.
They're both my boys. But I would tell you, it would be Victor Newman, because Victor Newman is not as lovable as Sonny. Sonny, you can hate him 1 minute, fall in love with him the next. Victor, the venom towards him is consistent. So, both of them are phenomenal. Both of them are great. I'm a part of the General Hospital. My character's name is Brick. I got a recurrent role. I just taped some scenes last week. Sonny Corinthos, a.k.a. Maurice Bernard, that's my brother. That's my man. But Victor Newman, a.k.a. Eric Braden, he's universally hated consistently more. Whereas Sonny, the ladies love Sonny, everything loves him, and it goes back and forth. So who knows? But I got your point. Got to get on out of here. I'll holler at y'all 22 hours from now. Until then, peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.